And I thought about it for a while, and I kept writing and writing and writing. And what kept coming back to me is like the thing that I can offer now to the people that follow my company is the things that help me and like the backbone of who I am. And also just reminding people that this is a time, and reminding myself also, this is a time to slow down and be introspective and really think about what's important, so that when we come back, we can come together stronger than before and use the platform and the community that we have to really have an even more incredible reach than we did before this virus happened.
Hey, it's Rick Wilson. Welcome to the Dragonproof e-commerce podcast. I'm author of Dragonproof e-commerce as well as CEO of Miva. And I am joined here today by Corey Lawley, the creator of Maya Jewelry. Hi, Corey.
Hey, Rick. How are you?
I'm well. So for a little background, I have known Corey for 25, 26 years. And I met her when she was working in the piercing industry. And I personally watched her build a jewelry business out of her life experience. And so congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
But as you know, in the last month, retail sales in America have dropped by 8.7% as Americans pulled back because of the coronavirus. What did that do to your business?
So about a month ago, once the things started to be talked about with the virus, I started to see a pretty rapid decline in sales. And by the time it had even barely hit New York, my sales completely ceased. So I've had a few retail sales. Fortunately, I do both wholesale and retail, so I'm able to still continue some of the retail. All my wholesale is completely stopped at this point because all the studios are closed.
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely impacted me.
Yeah. What percentage of your business was wholesale?
Wholesale is 85% of the business.
Yeah. And I'm sure even your retail business is off too.
Oh yeah. I'm getting like one order a day.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not how it was.
No, definitely not how it was.
Yeah.
So, there's a tweet here that you posted. It says, I've taken some personal time to digest all this, and honestly, it feels personally inauthentic to be selling and marketing during this time. I've been investigating the commodity of community and how Maya as an organization can contribute to our collective wellness. Explain.
So I almost became paralyzed when this happened, thinking about trying to promote and sell something to people, when I feel what people really need right now is just to be with themselves and grow their strength and their bonds with each other. To the point where I wasn't even posting on social media, and social media is the backbone of my business. I have a really huge social media following, and I've been very fortunate to be able to grow that and capitalize on it quite well. So us being completely silent was definitely a bit of a void, and I felt as though I needed to say something. And I thought about it for a while, and I kept writing and writing and writing. And what kept coming back to me is like the thing that I can offer now to the people that follow my company is the things that help me and like the backbone of who I am, which is my self-care practices, my meditation practices, my yoga practices, and also just reminding people that this is a time, and reminding myself also, this is a time to slow down and be introspective and really think about what's important, so that when we come back, we can come together stronger than before and use the platform and the community that we have to really have an even more incredible reach than we did before this virus happened.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, in some ways, although Chris, the producer of this podcast, is the one who talked me into starting to do this on a weekly basis during the coronavirus, that's been kind of why I've been doing it, right? Because otherwise I would just be sitting here going insane. And this gives me a chance to connect with people who I know either as close friends like you, or as just business associates or customers, or potentially non-business associates, and share a communal experience about how we're all getting through this.
Exactly.
From the beginning, were you always feeling a tension between creating jewelry and selling, or before all this, was that tension not so much?
I think that's one of an artist conundrum, is when you're making art that comes from a place deep within you, It's very intimate and vulnerable. And to sell that, in a sense, is selling a piece of yourself, or I should speak for me, it's selling a piece of myself. And that's always been and always probably will be, just because of how attached I am to my art, something that I battle with. And I honestly have some guilt about it sometimes. I feel it's just so strange to be capitalizing on something that feels so like authentic in a way that it shouldn't really have a dollar price on it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, and that kind of leads into what I wanted to ask next, which is, you know, is your stuff prefabricated or do you design it all? Tell us about your design process.
That's a good question. I design everything myself. I work with artisans that in Indonesia and also in Mexico, and everything is made by hand. So I essentially, my creative process is a very solo journey. I kind of lock myself in a room, or even I lock myself in
Yep.
your house sometimes. And I have to really quiet everything, which is, I think, also a challenge with being an artist that runs a business, is you have to be able to shut off the business side of yourself to be creative, and the creative side of yourself to be a business person. So it's like Jekyll and Hyde sometimes. It kind of make you a little crazy, but in a good way. So in that quiet, I definitely do some forecasting. So I look at trends and I try and forecast what's coming. And because my clientele base is very edgy, and I mean, I don't like to use the word alternative, but
They are.
we are, yes. I put my own personal twist on that. Like, how do I take something that is kind of mainstream and make it like street and make it edgy and make it unique, so the person wearing it can feel the essence of their uniqueness. And then I somehow make that idea come out of my hand onto a piece of paper. I'm super analog and old school. I hand draw everything, which all my artist friends tell me I'm insane, but it takes a long time, but I really enjoy the process, and it feels more real and tangible to me to be actually putting it on paper with my hand. And then from there, I submit the designs. I actually don't need to go to my manufacturers that much anymore. I have pretty good managers, or I have really good managers now, where I'm able to just drop the designs via email, and they can find the right artisan to make the piece depending on the feel and the look that we want to give it.
How much description do you have to give the managers? Like, I've seen the hand drawings. The fact that they turn out the way they turn out, there's got to be some steps in between one and three.
Yes. Well, that step is called 13 years of working with the same people. And I mean, I think really at this point, they can kind of just read my mind, because we know each other so well on that level that I can just give them a basic concept and describe it in our weird designer language that we've created. And it's almost like they channel it for me. It's interesting though, because what lives in my brain, I always have to surrender that the end result of that is going to be 20% different than what it looks like. And that was a hard thing to surrender to, but it's the only way when you're working overseas and it's basically like the telephone game. Like, my manager's first language is French, but I speak to him in English, and then he speaks to them in Bahasa, and then the owner speaks in Balinese to the carvers. So it's 4 different languages. So things get lost.
Yeah.
But I will say, generally, it comes out even better than I thought it was going to. So I'm fortunate in that way. I've chosen some great people to work with.
I mean, I think that's critical. I mean, we've talked about this before on the podcast and in the book. I think and you and I talk about this personally all the time. I think that's the number one most important thing to do in business. But you just talked about how you split yourself into Jekyll and Hyde, so you don't like confuse sales and marketing when you're designing. But another thing on that, which I think I know the answer, but I want to hear your actual take on it. You have a knack, I would say, for looking at trends, like you said, and then kind of morphing them into something unique for this community. But do you do any actual like predictions on sales, or is it all just trusting your gut?
It's all trusting my gut. As you know, I've built the company on intuition, maybe to a fault sometimes. You helped me with this. Thank you. You're like, there is logic in this too, Corey. Yes. But my intuition usually doesn't serve me wrong. The surprising thing about that, how I would answer that question is it's always the piece that I think is not going to do the best that does the best, to the point now that when I see the one that I'm like, oh, that one's not going to do that well, it's the number one seller.
That's
So
I actually didn't even know that. So I learned something
yeah,
new.
it's strange but true.
So like we were talking about, 85% of your business is to the wholesale market. Tell us about this group. What's this group like? What's their ethos? Is there a common thread from that group?
Yeah, so I work with high-end piercing and tattoo studios around the world. I have about 1,300 clients. My business model is interesting in the sense that in the beginning, I made a decision to only choose to work with the best studios in each city. So we're very choosy about who we sell to keep the brand very tight. The community is like really, I feel so blessed to work with them. I was a piercer before, as you said, and so I've been in the industry for 25 plus years, and really we're just a bunch of kind of rebel punk rock kids who figured out a way to make a bunch of money doing what we want to do, which is what's so awesome that I get to work with. They're like really, really free thinkers and people that have, not a lot of us have, were educated through school. A lot of us are self-taught and we're smashing it. Like as a community, the industry is just exploded. And I couldn't be more proud of what we've done. It's like most of the studios now are doing well into the millions plus every year. And I mean, I come from a time where it was like, 30,000 a year for a shop or something. And now it's like you go into a studio and you're like walked into a high-end boutique. And it's like
Yeah.
people, all my clients are covered from head to toe in tattoos and they're like just doing it, and like living the dream. And it's very awesome. And I'm super honored to be like a part of such a rebellious community that's like rocking it.
Yeah, I've watched that community grow and develop around you, and that's been an amazing thing to observe myself. Certainly, uh, I'm not quite in the community like you are. I'm adjacent to it, but what I get to see is really amazing, and I know a lot of those people, and it's something really, um, really magical. So right now you're doing 5 orders a week, so I know you can ship and fulfill those yourself.
Yes. Everything now is happening in my studio. I have one of the bedrooms in my house is where I do my creative work now, and I've moved everything here. The awesome thing about what I do is in jewelry, like I heard you interview Kyle last week, and I'm like always so grateful that I don't deal with like huge objects because I can just literally pick up my whole inventory and put it in the back of my car and go anywhere and
Right.
set up shop. So yeah, I'm here. I had to lay off my in-house employees when all of this happened. Right now, my focus is really trying to continue to support my international team because there are no services in the areas that I work. So I'm committed to continue to pay them a salary. I want to say as long as I can, which I think I can maintain throughout this and make sure that they're all taken care of. Um, yeah, that's what's happening.
So I mean, I know you, and I know you're kind of reimagining what you're going to do next when this is over, if you will, or when we exit the COVID crisis. What do you think Maya's going to look like then?
I mean, as you said, I've been thinking about this a lot. The interesting thing for me, this is kind of a golden opportunity. I mean, I guess for all of us, but even prior to this happening, had talked to you and had been thinking for a few years about reinventing the business in some way. Just, I've learned that I'm grateful to own a company that's succeeding on the level that I am, but I think I prefer to run a smaller business. I like that when I get to connect with my clients more and get to really be hands-on part of the process. And because the company's gotten so big, I've become so detached that out of necessity that I've lost some of the thing that fires me. So I'm using this opportunity to kind of think about how to reinvent the company safely so that I can still support my wholesale community, but also potentially not have as big of a staff, need as big of a staff when I go back. I'm honestly thinking about setting up a lot of my employees remotely. A lot of them already work remotely, but I'm noticing now that I'm working at home, which is awesome. Like I could outsource all of my employees, my admin, everything. So I'm thinking about like how to lower the expenses, how to just be more efficient so I can have more time to enjoy my life, you know? I mean, I love my job, but as you know, owning a business, there are a lot of sacrifices that come with it. And I'd like to have a little more balance so I could come swim at your pool.
I think first official mention of my pool on this podcast, but I'm
That's
okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that in this context. So, I mean, essentially, your focus is making sure that your community is supported in a way that's more sustainable for you. Uh,
exactly.
What kind of activities and interactivity are you planning around that?
What kind of, I'm sorry?
What kind of things are you thinking around that? Like, what kind of things would you do? Like, do you have any ideas you're ready to share with the world about how
I'm
you
not
might
ready
achieve
to
it?
share them yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I would rather not say until I make a decision because they're kind of bold moves. But it would be minimizing some of my selling channels essentially, and like basically curating my clientele list. I'll say yes.
There's a famous band that notoriously did that in the 60s. They were kind of known as the Beatles. So,
Boom.
um, so how do you see like, how are you guys doing the yoga Zoom stuff? Tell me about that kind of healthy stuff you're doing for your community.
Thanks. So as we were talking about before, when I was writing about the commodity community, I was like, well, what can Maya as a platform offer? And prior to owning Maya, and when I was a piercer, I used to run a retreat called the One Project. And in that project, I brought together a bunch of leaders and teachers from all over the world that taught different modalities of ceremony, ritual, self-care to the piercing community. And I did that for 6 years. The last One Project, we had 200 people come from all over the world. Um, and that's kind of what I've come back to, which is so interesting. Like I got kind of pushed back to my root. I'm like, well, what do I have to offer? And that is one of my gifts, is bringing people together. And I decided that what I was going to do was reach out to a handful of well-respected people in the community, some that I've met and some that I haven't, who do different modalities of teaching, from yoga, meditation, breath work, personal trainers, life coaches, just really awesome stand-up people. And they all said yes. So that's great. I'm about to launch, I think tomorrow, the basic premise, which is going to be announcing the teachers, the classes that are going to be offered. And then we're going to try it on Zoom, which I think is a cool platform in the sense that it really feels like we can all be together. We get to be together for a moment, even if it's remotely. And I think that's so important in this time, that everybody's still feeling connected, even if it's through a screen. It helps, right? So I'm not sure how it will be received. It's definitely a risk. It's like way outside of the norm of what a jewelry company would do. But I'm going to try it. I chose 6 teachers, so I'm going to do 6 classes over like a 2-week period. And depending on how it's received, I'll move from there.
So is this something you think will be something you offer for free to your community, or will this become a core part of your business? How do you see this impacting the sales and marketing side of your business?
I definitely do not intend on making money off of it. My intention with, as far as money, is promoting the people who are teaching. Most of them have their own platforms that they teach on. So I'll be pushing people to their classes as a way to support that community as well, and hopefully bring them some more revenue. I mean, my hope is really that from a marketing angle, my intention is to shine light on the company and just show my heart. And it's a vulnerable place to be. Honestly, I've been kind of procrastinating on launching it because I have some fear around what may come with the internet people. And um, yeah, my intention is just to shine some light on the company, and hopefully that manifests into continued loyalty with my clients after this is over.
So
Most of my competitors are really, it's very interesting, but they're running a lot of sales, and it's basically like sale after sale after sale, and they're not selling doing sales for wholesale, but they're doing them for retail. And so they're undercutting all of the wholesalers. And I just like, it hurts my heart so much. And I just like, I want to do something out of kindness.
Yeah, that's in line with your character. So
thank you.
So do you see yourself ultimately as a business owner, an artist, or a community organizer?
All the things. all of those. It would be hard to say. I guess the first I'm an artist, the artist part of me is the backbone of those other two things. Something I've actually, one of the many things I've learned from you, Rick, is that business is also an art. And I had a lot of resistance to surrendering to becoming a business person. Learning Excel, I was like, that's gross. But I've actually found the most beautiful art in all of it, right? There's like when your business is creating something. So to me, I just break it all down to art, and that's how I've been able to do what a lot of artists struggle with, is to be able to do both. And the only way I was able to do that is just to surrender to it as an art form.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you and I have had this discussion for probably 20 years now, but I've always been surrounded by artists. That's just been kind of what I grew up with. And I used to struggle with for lack of a better term, a type of jealousy, right? Because I didn't feel like I had an art, right? Like I wasn't a DJ, I wasn't a performer, I wasn't a this, or I wasn't a that. And I spent a lot of time, both from your counsel and others, thinking about what is it I'm really passionate about doing. And I'm passionate about teaching people how to build a business that is in line with their values. So
that's it. That's it. That's your art.
Thus the art. Yes. I have to be careful. Corey can make me cry, and I don't want to cry on my podcast.
It's one of my magic powers.
Oh, she has a total magic power. So I'm just shutting it down.
Shield up.
So, I mean, what do you think the rest of your industry is going to do? Do you have any predictions?
Ooh. Unfortunately, I think some of us won't make it. Some of the studios won't make it. I've been following, I'm not really a Facebook person, but I've been following the threads, just kind of trying to watch the patterns and seeing what the shop owners and piercers are talking about. And many of them weren't prepared for this financially. So I feel like there'll be a decline in the amount of studios there are. And that is very unfortunate, although I think that what that is going to do is even turn up the volume more on high end. And the studios that do prevail are going to be even stronger because they're going to have less competition. And I know, because I've been in this community, and I'm one of the community, that we're a very resilient group of people. And like, as I was saying, most of us built ourselves from nothing, so we can do it again. I have no doubt that we're going to prevail. I mean, there is also some interesting things to consider with us being kind of in the medical industry and shortage of medical supplies. And I do predict that the bounce back from this is going to be longer than many people are suspecting. But I know that we will bounce back.
So you're ultimately feeling optimistic?
Yes, definitely. I'm resourceful, and I know that at the end of the day, regardless of what happens, I'm gonna ebb and flow with it, and I'm gonna find my niche wherever that is, and maybe I get to create something new. That's cool.
Knowing you, I suspect you will. Do you want to say anything about your Zoom event? Is there any way people can find this stuff?
Yeah. So if you go to my Instagram, it's just Maya Jewelry, at Maya Jewelry. I'll be posting about the classes, and then for each individual class, we'll be providing a link within the post for each teacher, as well as a newsletter that will talk about the teacher, the class, and a Zoom link. So you can find me there.
Well, that's awesome. There's a bunch of people I want to thank. People providing essential services, and everyone who's out there trying to keep their employees employed. And then it goes without saying, the medical workers of the world, they all deserve Michael Jordan salaries. So, and my final thank you is to you, Corey. I love you.
I love you so much.
So shields back up. Subscribe to the Dragonproof e-commerce. We'll post that info in the show notes. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back in a week.